Yo, what's up, guys? It's John, aka Dynamite, and I am back with another video. Like I said in my previous video, I'm doing previews on every team, but for the sake of timing and so that way I don't make 30 videos on all 30 teams, I'm breaking it down by division. So this is the Atlantic Division version, which means we are doing the Celtics, Nets, Knicks, Sixers, and Raptors. This video will be timestamped as well because I don't know how long I'll talk about each team. I understand that not everyone will be interested in every single team. They'll probably just want to hear about their favorite team, and that's basically it. So that's why I'm doing timestamps. And also, it depends on how much stuff there is to talk about. So if I spend 2 minutes talking about your favorite team and 5 to 10 minutes talking about another, please don't take it personally. If anything, if there's something you feel like I missed, please comment down below. Also, leave a like, subscribe if you're new, follow all my social media in the description below. Alright, that's it. Let's get into it. Also, I'm doing this podcast style, meaning I'm not really going to put stats on the screen like I usually do in my videos unless I absolutely have to. So if you're listening to this in the background, don't worry about missing anything because you most likely won't. I'm doing this in alphabetical order, meaning the first team on the chopping block is the Boston Celtics, and oh man, I'm sorry, but I gotta say this as a Knicks fan. Yes, I'm a Knicks fan, so feel free to flame me about it. I don't care. I've literally heard every joke under the sun at this point. Almost every Celtics fan I meet has the same complaints about the team. Oh, we need a center. Oh, Danny Ainge loves hogging draft picks. Oh, Danny Ainge is greedy. That sounds like first world problems, but I digress. Anyway, putting my unbiased hat back on, they definitely could have gotten a better center than Tristan Thompson. I will say that I'm surprised yet not surprised that Thompson decided to sign with the Celtics of all teams, because apparently he wants to go back to Cleveland, but like I said in my Raptors video, the Cavs basically just didn't have the money to re-sign him, and also since Andre Drummond opted into his player option, they didn't really need him, and which is why I said the Raptors, should have swooped in and pursued him, especially since he's a Canadian native. But I guess he decided on a starting center role on the Celtics, and he's getting paid $19 million for it. But I'm still pretty sure the Raptors could have offered him more money, but we don't know what goes on in these free agency meetings unless it gets leaked or talked about later on by like the players, media. You guys know what I mean. Now, I haven't read much rather on the whole Miles Turner fiasco, but I do know that the main issue was that Ainge wanted Turner and either Victor Oladipo or TJ Warren or a first round pick. Basically like a combination of those three things. And if this is the case, then Celtics fans should be glad the trade didn't go through, because you don't need Oladipo and Warren when you already have Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart. So Celtics fans, I'm sorry, but I gotta call you guys out here, because you shouldn't be mad at the fact that you didn't get Miles Turner. You should be mad at Danny Ainge for being greedy and wanting Turner and much, much more. You know the saying, don't bite the hand that feeds you? That's literally what Danny Ainge did, because from what I know, it seems like this trade was pretty much done and guaranteed to go through, but Ainge messed it up for everybody. So if you're a Celtics fan who feels this way, then great. I applaud you for thinking about this logically, because most fans I've seen are just mad that you didn't get Turner, when I feel like they don't have the full context of what happened. And maybe that is the case. I don't know, but either way, the fact remains that as great a GM as Danny Ainge is, this is 100% his fault. So, moving on to the other moves the team made, I didn't agree with trading away Cantor because he was actually great off the bench, especially in the bubble and in the playoffs. Plus, now that Thompson is projected to be the starting center, Cantor would have been even more useful as the backup, because Thompson's a bad matchup against certain teams. Like, yeah, an argument can be made that Thompson and Cantor are basically the same player because of their play styles, but Cantor's height We all know he's 7 foot, 7'1", makes him extremely difficult to defend. And that's why he was so valuable, especially in the conference finals against the Heat. He forced the Heat out of their comfort zone of playing small ball. Like I think that's even how the Celtics got a couple of games of the Heat. It's just by playing tall ball, especially with Cancer, and that forced the Heat to basically play tall ball with the Celtics. So, and not all that didn't happen all the time, obviously, but whenever it did happen, it's when the Celtics did play well in that series. But anyway, hopefully this does open up more time for Taco Fall, who, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm the biggest fan of, but like, I've made a video arguing why the Celtics need to play him more, and from what I know, he seems to be a big fan favorite. So I just don't get, there's obviously something going on behind the scenes that we don't know about regarding that whole situation. But the team should play him more. Like, I'll even link my video in the description below and in the eye thing in the top right corner of the video. So if not, if Taco Fall doesn't get more playing time, then I assume that means that a Robert Williams will be the backup, which I wouldn't mind. I like Robert Williams. From what I saw, he maximized the most of what he can do when he's out on the court. So I believe yeah, he's ready for 20 to 25 minutes off the bench. Why? If you think Taco Fall, if he's still not ready for the NBA, then why not? I think Rob Williams, he's got, yeah, I think this will only be his second year in the league, but I think he's ready for the NBA. Like, I saw him in college, like in the NCAA tournament. I'm like, he looked good for Texas A&M. So I'd say, hey, why not? And obviously he's good. He was good in the NBA. But either way, I'm just saying right now, just be ready for the center position to be the team's biggest weak spot yet again. So, in terms of other moves, I really like Jeff Teague as Kemba Walker's backup. He's a major upgrade over Brad Wanamaker and Grant Williams. Same with Tremont Waters. Tremont Waters, I've been a fan of him since his high school days. I think if he gets a decent run with the Celtics, I think fans are really going to like him a lot. Especially fans who know Tremont Waters as well as I do. They've basically been watching him since high school. I think, I think he can be really sneaky good off the bench for this team. Oh, and also Peyton Pritchard as well. So, Peyton Pritchard, I want to talk about him a bit. He's an interesting guy to keep an eye on because, for those who don't know, he was actually the best player at Oregon this past season. He averaged 20 points a game, 5 assists. He shot the ball really well. And according to Jay Bilas, and then this is what Jay Bilas said on draft night when the Celtics picked him, he led the entire nation in minutes played at 37 minutes per game. So I wonder how a college senior who's used to quote unquote being the guy will react to being the third string point guard on the depth chart of a championship contender. Then I assume Aaron Naismith is going to be Tatum and Brown's backup too. So I already said this in my Celtics video that I talked about with Taco Fall. And I don't want to simply repeat everything, but what is the team's outlook for this upcoming season? Well, I think they'll still be a top 4 seed in the conference. I'm not going to exactly say where they'll finish because it honestly depends on the Nets and how good they are. That's a lot. Honestly, a lot of what happens in the East this year, I'm just going to say right now, a lot of what happens in the Eastern Conference this year depends on how good the Nets are. So I'm just going to say that spoiler right now because they're going to be the next team I talk about. But I will say I won't be surprised if the Celtics attempt to trade for a backup center or a backup power forward at the trade deadline or sometime during the season. Because those are the weakest positions, just like it was for them last season. And those are really important positions for a team like them to have good depth at if they want to win a championship this year. Losing Gordon Hayward doesn't really hurt them much, but it doesn't help them either. At the end of the day, as much as fans, Celtics fans dislike Hayward, the fact remains that he was another shot creator for them. He averaged around 17 points per game when he was healthy. You can't say that he wasn't valuable to the team. He didn't do his job when he was healthy. It's just that stuff happened that was obviously very unfortunate. So it is what it is. Losing Cancer will hurt them a lot. I think, like, I'm gonna stand by it. Cancer would have been really helpful for them off the bench this year, especially considering the fact that Tristan Thompson's gonna be the starting center. I'm sticking by that. I think Cancer, that's gonna hurt them in the long run. It might not hurt them like early in the season, but I'm telling you, like, as the season drags on, as we get towards like playoff time, and even in the playoffs, it's gonna hurt them to not have that that surefire backup center in Cancer. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I've said everything I needed to say on the Celtics. Like I said, let me know in the comments if you think I missed something important, but I'm moving on to the Brooklyn Nets now. So before I talk about the moves the Nets made, this is my opinion on Katie and Kyrie because I've never formally established my opinion on it publicly. Basketball wise, it will work. One thing that's extremely important when pairing superstar players together is making sure they set boundaries and their roles early on so that they gel together and don't step on each other's toes once they step on the court together. And considering Katie and Kyrie, they're best friends and they've already been together on the Nets for a year, I assume they've already discussed these boundaries and whatnot. So I'm not really worried about chemistry issues. So even though obviously they haven't played any games together, I assume that they've worked out a ton together, and plus they have training camp. They've had training camp and all this time, to get together. So honestly, like even when the season starts, they don't really have any excuses. Like, yeah, there'll probably be a few chemistry issues early on in the season, but they'll most likely be from rust and the pressure of getting off to a good start because like I've been saying in both of my videos and my articles, the East is very top heavy. So if the Nets are a 500 team or barely above that about a month or so into the season, it'll be really hard for them to gain ground, especially in a shortened season. Well, I mean, shortened in that there's what, 9 less games, but it's still a shortened season nonetheless. You guys get what I mean. It won't be impossible for them to gain ground, but it'll be the difference between them being a 2 seed and a 4 or 5 seed, which will be important for the playoffs, obviously. Also, it's extremely, and I mean extremely, important that Katie and Kyrie listen to Steve Nash. I'm not worried about Nash as a coach because he actually does have coaching experience from his time with the Warriors, but he's still considered a rookie head coach. He's going to make mistakes and he's going to get criticized by the media and the fans for it. So, the leaders of the team, aka Katie and Kyrie, it's their job to support him. Unless Nash is just a horrible coach and he has no idea what he's doing, but even still, that reminds me of Derek Fisher, and I highly doubt Nash will end up becoming a Derek Fisher. So hopefully Nash just. I'm saying this as a Knicks fan too. Nash, you better not make me look dumb. All right, I'm vouching for you here, so you better make me look good. And yeah, I'm saying this as a Knicks fan. But even still, the thing that Kyrie said about not seeing the team having a head coach concerns me, contrary to what other people are saying, because knowing Kyrie, when they have a dry spell during the season where they might lose 3 or 4 games in a row, don't be surprised if you see him and Nash arguing on the bench or Kyrie low-blowing Nash via the media. But I don't want to drag on into hypotheticals and whatnot. I'll leave that for the talk shows and their hot takes. Actually, now is a good segue into the actual moves the team made, and then how their roster compares to the rest of the conference. So they didn't really do much. They traded for Landry Shamet, which, by the way, was a really good trade. I think the Nets won that trade, like, by far. Like, not even close. And they traded for Bruce Brown. They signed Jeff Green, who he'll be okay for them off the bench. And they re-signed Joe Harris and Tyler Johnson, which were two really key guys for their core this past season. Now, does this mean I think it's because they're trying to trade for James Harden and they want to save up? Hell no. One, I think Harden is going to Philly, which I will talk about later during the Sixers segment, so hold your horses. And two, the comparison about the Nets being the Clippers before they trade for Kawhi and PG is accurate. The only difference is that the Nets didn't have to give up a promising young player that the Clippers did with Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. They kept the majority of their core, and they're now adding two superstars to the mix. So you can imagine what the scenarios are. Comparing their roster against the other top teams in the East, if, and this is a big if, everything goes right and the Nets remain relatively healthy, and when I mean healthy, I mean that Kyrie and KD, they both play around 55 to 60 games. In my opinion, there's no reason why they can't finish as the number 2 seed in the East. Like, I really believe that if you look at it. I think the Bucks are going to be the number 1 seed just because of their sheer motivation and the fact that it might be Giannis's last year and everything, so they're going for broke. But like I said about the Celtics, the loss of Cancer and Hayward plus their lack of depth at the power forward and center positions will cost them. The Nets have Jared Allen and DeAndre Jordan as their centers. That's basically all the depth you need. The Raptors will be fine, especially with Van Vliet, but they lost Ibaka and Gasol, who are two really core guys of their championship roster. So they'll probably be the 3 or the 4 seed. I don't know. Either way, the Raptors will still be up there. Then I think the Nets obviously have a better roster than the Heat and the Sixers. So if I had to guess where they'll finish in the standings, best case scenario is the 2 seed, and the worst case scenario is maybe the 5 seed. So yeah, again, it all just depends. Like, you guys see what I'm trying to say, right? Like, the Nets, like, how healthy they remain this year will determine a lot of what happens in the East this year. So obviously, they're gonna be one of the premier teams to watch, and also they're gonna be the pendulum that sways the conference, if that makes sense. I got a little philosophical on you guys there. So, but anyway, that's everything I need to say on the Nets. Let me know if I missed anything, but now it's on to my New York Knicks. Alright, first of all, let me get this out of the way. Just like I've been unbiased in all my takes so far, which is why you should subscribe, by the way, I will be unbiased when it comes to my favorite team, alright? Anyway, in terms of the moves the Knicks made, I will say this. I know it looks bad that they basically did the same thing they've been doing for the past couple of years and just signing veterans to small contracts, but in this case, it makes perfect sense. You have a new front office management, you have a new head coach, and they've already done their job so far. They nailed the draft and gained Obi Toppin and Emmanuel Quickley, although I would have rather taken RJ Hampton because he was right there for the taking, but it's fine. It's fine. I'm gonna stay unbiased here. We still got a high caliber, competent point guard, and he's a Kentucky guy, so you know he's gonna be good. And they want to see how those two guys mesh with RJ Barrett and Mitchell Robinson. So instead of filling the entire roster of young guys, why not balance it out with some veterans who can help the young core? Plus, the veterans they signed are mostly coming off the bench anyway. Like Alec Burks, Ed Davis, Nerlens Noel, Austin Rivers, and Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, they're all coming off the bench. Because the starting lineup is going to be, or at least should be, Quickley, Barrett, Toppin, Julius Randle, and Robinson. I'm pretty sure other fans would want Elfrid Payton as a starting point guard, but he's not the future of the franchise, so it makes absolutely zero sense to do so. Just like it would make zero sense for those veterans that the Knicks signed over this offseason to start as well. But anyway, yeah, have the veterans come off the bench and help the young guys. And please, for the love of God, do not tank. I'm going to say it again. Do not tank. There's no need to tank this year because the 2021 draft and free agent class is extremely stacked to the point where you don't need a top guy available. You just get the guys that are needed for whatever roles they can fill on the roster, or that are needed on the roster, rather. Don't get me wrong. I still think the Knicks are going to be bad this year, but as long as they're competitive, the young guys develop and play hard under Coach Thibodeau, and they figure out which veterans can be part of the team for the long term, that's a successful season in my book. So, yeah, that's everything I needed to say on the Knicks. For the people listening to this segment thinking I was just going to bash my team, I'm not the typical negative Nancy like Stephen A. Smith is about this team, alright? But, yeah, let me know if I missed anything in the comments below, but I'm moving on to the Sixers now. Alright, so the first thing I want to address with the Sixers is James Harden, which is obviously the elephant in the room of this team. So, as of the recording of this video, because I'm recording this on Friday to upload on Saturday, so that'll be December 4th. I'm uploading this on December 5th, obviously. It seems like Harden will not be traded before the season starts. Now, obviously, emphasis on it seems because, that can change because it seemed like Westbrook wasn't going to get traded after we didn't hear anything for like 2 weeks, and then boom, Westbrook to Washington for John Wall. So, which I'm going to talk about, obviously, in my Southeast Division video, which is going to come out tomorrow. So, you guys, and I mean tomorrow, I mean Sunday, because you guys are going to see this on Saturday. So, make sure you tune in for that, or you subscribe for that if you're new. Have I mentioned that you need to subscribe? Make sure you subscribe if you're new. Anyway, that doesn't mean Harden won't get traded at all. I still think it's going to happen, and if it does, and I'm talking about to Philly specifically, it's going to be for Ben Simmons. So, there you go. For people who are curious about my take on the whole Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid thing, my opinion is you keep Embiid and you trade Simmons. When healthy, Embiid is without question the most dominant center in the NBA. And that's not a hot take, that's just fact. Like, it's the numbers prove it. Like, I mean, yeah, there are a couple of centers who come pretty close, but at the end of the day, when he's healthy, it is Joel Embiid without a doubt. And meanwhile, Simmons, he hasn't changed his game. He's been in the league for what, like 4 years now? I mean, technically he has been in the league for 4 years, because I know his rookie year, obviously, whatever you want to consider his rookie year. The point is, the year he got drafted, he sat out that year, and that was in 2016. He was hurt. So technically he's played for 3 years, but he's been in the NBA for 4 years. So I say 4 years. But the point is, he hasn't changed this game since he's been in the NBA. And he only won Rookie of the Year because we've never seen a 6'10" point guard in our modern generation. Like, I think the closest we've come to really seeing like an extremely tall point guard in the past few decades alone that's been as good as Ben Simmons, and obviously better, is Magic Johnson. And Magic Johnson, obviously, is one of the best players of all time. Otherwise, in my opinion, Donovan Mitchell deserved that Rookie of the Year. So, but I'm not going to get into that. But anyway, I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent. My point is that if Harden gets traded to Philly, it'll be for Ben Simmons plus some role players and draft picks. Moving on, I'm kind of mixed on whether the Sixers had a good offseason overall. Like, yeah, they got rid of Al Horford's horrible contract and traded for Seth Curry, Danny Green, and Terrence Ferguson. Right, great moves, like A++ grade on all of those. I also really like the Dwight Howard signing. Like, he's going to be great for them off the bench, or even as a spot starter when Embiid doesn't play. Because let's be honest, it's Embiid. He's going to miss games. But I have to admit, I barely know anyone else they signed in free agency. Like, yeah, you can chalk it up to me not knowing college basketball that much, but I mean, just bear with me. Like, I know Justin Anderson and Tony Bradley, but I have no idea who's Ryan Brokoff, Paul Reed, and Lamine Diane. I don't know. You guys can let me know in the comments below. Like I said, I mean, obviously I don't really know college basketball like that, but again, I don't know. Like, but either way, like, I think the Sixers are going to be a playoff team regardless of whether they trade for Harden or not. As of now, I can't really say where they'll finish in the standings because it depends on whether the trade happens. Like, if you guys want, if the trade does happen literally right before the season starts, then I can make a separate video. But it depends on you guys because I'd rather make videos like this, which are more analytical, than do reactionary stuff like trades and free agent signings. Anyway, that's it on the Sixers. Let's finish up this video with the Toronto Raptors. I gotta say, I don't know about the Raptors for this year. I still think they're a lock for a top five seed, but they lost both Serge Ibaka and Marc Gasol, and the only major move they made was re-signing Fred VanVleet. And I'll admit, maybe my expectations for this team were a bit too high. Like for those who watch my off-season shopping list videos, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. For those who may not watch, particularly the one on the Raptors, which I highly recommend, by the way, link in the description, and it's gonna be in the top in the icon in the top right. I said that they should sign Brandon Ingram, and another video I don't remember which one. I said they should go for Tristan Thompson. But even though my takes may look bad now, it was because their roster will look pretty bleak without it. And when I mean bleak, I mean that besides Kyle Lowry, Pascal Siakam, and Fred VanVleet, the rest of the roster is pretty mediocre. Like, honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, could the Sixers, maybe they'll be better than the Raptors this year, but at the same time, I don't want to say that outright because the Sixers always end up disappointing and not living up to expectations. So, I don't know. Like, I'm not going to lie. If you guys ask me during the season who's better, the Raptors or the Sixers, my answer might change depending on how both teams are doing at that time. But for right now, I'm going with the Raptors as a top five seed. I think the core of Lowry, Siakam, and VanVleet, plus Nurse's coaching, will help them overachieve and have a really good season. Not a great one like this past year where they were the 2 seed, but they'll be fine. But I don't know because at the same time they're in the Atlantic Division, which in my opinion is going to be one of the more tougher divisions this year because you have four of the 5 teams making the playoffs in the division, like so. But yeah, that's it for the Raptors, and that's also the end of this video. So thank you guys for watching, especially those who watched the entire video because, like I said, I timestamped this for a reason. So make sure you guys leave a like, and if you're new, subscribe to my channel. Follow all my social media in the description below, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.